I'm a retired former Flying Tiger FedEx pilot. Been retired about 6 years. Used to fly these airplanes back in Alaska when I was in my 20s, and I flew them for years and years. And so after retirement, the museum heard that I was around down in Titusville, so they said, "Hey, come on, join us." And so I'm a director of flight operations for the museum now, and I manage all the flying airplanes.
Tell me about this plane. What's so unique about this plane?
This plane was actually used in D-Day and a few invasions after D-Day. So it's a survivor of D-Day. It was shot up a little bit. It's been patched up. After the war, it was given to the Norwegians on a Lend-Lease kind of thing, and then they gave it to they passed it over to the Danish government. And this airplane was used by the Queen of Denmark as her personal, like our Air Force One.
Tell me about. So we're going to do a special on Florida's history for the 75th anniversary of D-Day.
Yes.
So tell me about some of the history of Central Florida that you know, including this plane. Like, this is a major piece of World War II history that's in Titusville. Tell me the association the museum and this plane play in kind of preserving that part of our history.
Well, we have an entire building with nothing but World War II airplanes in Titusville at Space Coast Regional Airport. Valiant Air Command is we've been around for close to 40 years. We have an air show every year. We're a huge contributor to the local economy. The museum is open 7 days a week. We get lots of people that are on their way to the Space Center for tourism, and they stop by the museum, and so we feel like we're a serious contributor to the local economy. And anyway.
Why is it important that we have these kind of efforts to save and share the World War II history?
Well, it's getting harder and harder to come by parts, and I mean, there's just fewer and fewer of these planes, and including the airmen that flew them. They're just about all of them are dead now. There's not a lot of survivors, so we're trying to preserve the history of World War II and all the valiant people that died for this.
So this plane is going back to Normandy this summer. Tell me about the trip this summer.
Oh, the trip in the summer is going to be. So we're going to start around the latter part of May, and actually go over to up across Greenland, over Newfoundland, Keflavik, and then to the UK to a place called Duxford, which is one of the biggest air museums in the world, Flying Air Museum. And all the airplanes are going to stage out of there. We're going to load up parachutes and fly them into France. Depends on this Brexit thing. Has got us little. We don't know if the French are going to let us in at this point, but we're going to fly the airplanes over to the Normandy drop zone and drop off jumpers.
So what's? I mean, this is amazing. This piece of Central Florida history, the icon of Central Florida World War II history, is going back to Normandy. How does that personally make you feel?
Well, my family, my dad was, he was a veteran of World War II. So, and I've been flying these airplanes since I was 18 years old, and it's always been, it's always been a piece of history. This is an icon of one of the most historical planes that's ever been produced, and it's still a workhorse. It's still working all over the world. They use them all over Africa. They use them all over South America. We haven't got a lot of them flying in America right now commercially anymore. Most of them have been painted up like this one, and we're trying to get all these planes back into the military configuration instead of the civilian cargo situation. A lot of them are being converted to turboprops with big engines. They extend the fuselage, and it's extend the range. I mean, it's really it turns it into an airplane, serious airplane.
What do you think it's going to be like to reintroduce this plane to French airspace? When it comes over the channel, what personally you think you will feel being part of this effort?
I really haven't thought about that, to tell you the truth. I've spent a lot of time over there. I have a house in Europe, so I spend a lot of time there. I've been to Normandy. I've already experienced this personal feeling. I mean, it's on the ground, So, but in the air, I mean, it's going to be serious. I mean, there's a lot of people putting a lot of effort into this, and I'm sure it's going to emotionally affect me.
Perfect. Thank you very much.